All new tonight, unsealed court documents shed new light on a case that nearly upended a bribery trial 2 years ago.
Our chief investigative reporter Lynn Kawano has new details on the steps law enforcement took after a defendant was accused of trying to hire a hitman.
The documents were filed just before the bribery trial in 2024. The records were opened last week after a request by the Public First Law Center. 21 documents unsealed Friday reveal the scramble ahead of the bribery trial for longtime city prosecutor Keith Kaneshiro and executives from an engineering company, including the company's lawyer, Sherry Tanaka. One of the documents showed Tanaka's attorney wanted the trial delayed just ahead of jury selection because of the intense new publicity. The filing included an Instagram picture from a California neighborhood of an FBI raid. The agent was walking by a red Corvette in Tanaka's Manhattan Beach garage. That happened January 23, 2024, as allegations surfaced that she reportedly paid a convicted felon to target the judge presiding over the case. He recused himself the next day. The special prosecutor was also a reported target. Both were assigned a security detail.
When a federal judge or prosecutor receives credible threats, the U.S. Marshal Service steps in immediately. Their job is judicial security. 24-hour protection means deputies at your home, route planning, controlled movements, restricted public exposure.
Tanaka's attorney argued delaying trial was necessary because of the seismic shakeup from the new allegations. In the raid, the government seized Tanaka's 2 phones, a computer, and a USB hard drive. The devices contained materials necessary for her defense. Another unsealed record showed the other defendants wanted Tanaka to get her own trial because they believed the new hitman-for-hire reports would taint the jury for all of them. The press is hungry for the story, and it's only a matter of time before it gets leaked, one attorney wrote, especially because the investigation is extremely active. Included in that document, a handwritten letter from the FBI agents that was left on the door of a trial witness. The agents wrote they stopped by for a safety check and wanted to make sure that the witness did not receive any threats too. The trial was delayed 3 months after these documents were filed. The jury ultimately found all the defendants, including Tanaka, not guilty of bribery conspiracy. No new charges have been filed against her for the alleged murder-for-hire case. The investigation was taken over by the Arizona FBI office to avoid any conflicts with local authorities. It's unclear if it's still ongoing.
Particularly where you have a situation involving alleged threats to a judge and a U.S. attorney, you would think that they would have moved along pretty rapidly. And given that nothing has occurred yet, it would appear to me unlikely that something's going to occur in the near future.
In a previous statement, Tanaka's attorney said she was actually the victim of extortion and paid a man who was threatening her family. He said she did not hire the man to harm the judge or prosecutor. I'm Lynn Kawano, Hawaii News Now.